The arrival. The vast expanse of space surrounding the planet Zephyria shimmered with an eerie calm. The Zephyrians, a race of towering crystalline beings, had long considered themselves the undisputed rulers of this sector. Their world, a swirling orb of blues and purples, hung suspended in the inky blackness, its surface dotted with gleaming cities that spoke of advanced civilization and technological prowess. In the central command center of Zephyria's capital city, General Zix stood before a massive holographic display. His crystalline form refracted the light from the countless screens and readouts surrounding him, casting prismatic patterns across the chamber. Behind him, a team of Zephyrian officers worked diligently at their stations, monitoring the planet's defenses and keeping watch over their celestial domain. Suddenly, a series of alerts flashed across the main display. Zix's multifaceted eyes narrowed as he focused on the incoming data. "Report," he commanded, his voice resonating with a sound like chimes in the wind. A young officer, her form still rough and unpolished, stepped forward. "General, we've detected an unknown fleet entering our system. They've just passed the outer marker buoys." Zix's crystalline brow furrowed. "Show me," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, zooming in on a cluster of small ships making their way towards Zephyria. Zix studied the image, his initial concern quickly melting into amusement. The approaching fleet was tiny, almost comically so when compared to the massive Zephyrian warships that patrolled their borders. "Is this some kind of joke?" Zix asked, a chuckle escaping him. The sound was like ice cracking, sharp and sudden. "Who would dare approach us with such a pitiful force?" The young officer consulted her readouts. "Sir, initial scans indicate humans." A ripple of laughter spread through the command center. The Zephyrians had heard of humans, of course. They were a relatively new species on a galactic stage, hailing from a small, unremarkable planet in a distant arm of the galaxy. But to see them here, approaching Zephyria with what amounted to little more than a handful of shuttles, was beyond absurd. "Humans?" Zix repeated, his amusement evident. "Well, this should be entertaining. Hail their lidship. Let's see what these creatures want." As the communications officer worked to establish a link, Zix turned to address his staff. "It seems our day just got a bit more interesting. Who knows? Perhaps these humans will provide us with some amusement before we send them scurrying back to their little world." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the human vessel. Zix found himself staring at a being that looked almost comically small and fragile. The human captain, a woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair, met his gaze without flinching. "This is Captain Amelia Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon," she said, her voice calm and steady. "We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations with the Zephyrian people." Zix couldn't help but laugh. The sound reverberated through the command center, causing some of the more delicate instruments to vibrate. "Peace. Diplomacy. With that fleet," he gestured dismissively. "You're either very brave or very foolish, human. Do you have any idea of the power you face?" Captain Chen's expression remained neutral. "We are well aware of Zephyrian capabilities, General. But we believe that true strength lies not in the size of one's fleet, but in the power of one's ideas and the depth of one's determination." The Zephyrian general's amusement faded slightly, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. There was something in the human's eyes, a resolve that he found intriguing. "Very well, Captain Chen. You have my attention, if only for the moment. State your purpose." "We propose an exchange of knowledge and culture," Chen replied. "Humanity has much to offer, as I'm sure do the Zephyrians. We believe that together we could achieve great things." Zix considered her words. It was a bold proposal, especially coming from such an apparently inferior force. Part of him wanted to dismiss the humans outright, to flex Zephyria's military might, and send them running. But another part, a part he didn't quite understand, was curious. "Your proposal is unexpected," Zix said finally. I will consult with the Zephyrian High Council. In the meantime, you and your fleet will remain where you are. Any attempt to approach Zephyria without permission will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Is that understood? Captain Chen nodded. Perfectly, General. We await your decision. As the communication ended, Zix turned back to his staff. They were all watching him, their crystalline faces reflecting a mix of amusement and confusion. Well, he said, his voice tinged with dry humor. It seems our day just got a lot more interesting. Prepare a report for the High Council, and keep a close eye on those human ships. I want to know if they so much as twitch. As his officers hurried to comply, Zix found his gaze drawn back to the holographic display of the human fleet. They were so small, so seemingly insignificant against the backdrop of space, and yet, there was something about them, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. A potential, perhaps, or a threat he couldn't yet see. Whatever it was, Zix had a feeling that the arrival of these humans was going to change everything. Little did he know just how right he was. As word of the human arrival spread across Zephyria, reactions ranged from dismissive laughter to cautious curiosity. In the great crystalline cities, Zephyrians gathered in public squares, their forms creating dazzling light displays as they discussed the unexpected visitors. In one such square, a group of young Zephyrians had gathered around a public view screen, watching replays of the communication between General Zix and Captain Chen. "Look at how small they are," one youth exclaimed, his form shimmering with mirth. "How do they even function at that size?" Another, her crystalline structure more refined, spoke up. "Size isn't everything, Blix. Remember the minuscule minds of Mira. They nearly outsmarted us during the Great Nebula dispute." Lix scoffed, sending prismatic reflections dancing across the square. The Mirans had advanced tech. These humans, they look like they're flying around in spare parts cobbled together. As the debate continued among the youth, across the city, in the halls of the High Council, a very different conversation was taking place. The council chamber was a marvel of Zephyrian architecture, its walls and ceiling formed from a single massive crystal that seemed to capture and amplify the light of the twin suns. The 12 members of the High Council sat in a circle, their forms more intricate and multifaceted than those of ordinary Zephyrians, a testament to their age and wisdom. High Councilor Zara, her form a complex lattice of shimmering planes, addressed her peers. "We've all seen the reports. These humans, while seemingly insignificant, have managed to traverse vast distances of space to reach us. That alone suggests capabilities we may not fully understand." "Bah," countered Councillor Crix, his voice sharp and brittle. "They're nothing more than cosmic tourists, stumbling into realms far beyond their comprehension. We should send them packing before they cause any trouble." Zyra's form pulsed with a soft light, a sign of deep thought among Zephyrians. "Perhaps. But consider this. What if there's more to them than meets the eye? What if this small fleet is merely a test, a probe to gauge our reactions?" The chamber fell silent as the councillors pondered her words. Finally, Councillor Vix spoke up, her voice soft but clear. "I propose we allow a small delegation to land. Under heavy guard, of course. Let us see these humans up close, gauge their true intentions and capabilities." The debate raged on for hours, the crystalline walls of the chamber reflecting the shifting moods and opinions of the council. Finally, a consensus was reached. Back in the command center, General Zix received the council's decision with a mix of anticipation and wariness. He opened a channel to the human fleet. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression as composed as ever. "General Zix," she greeted. "Have you reached a decision?" Zix nodded, his crystalline form catching the light. "The High Council has agreed to allow a small delegation to land on Zephyria. You will be given coordinates for a designated landing zone. Any deviation from this course will be considered an act of aggression. Is this clear?" A small smile played at the corners of Chen's lips. "Crystal clear, General. We appreciate your hospitality and look forward to this historic meeting." As the communication ended, Zix couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something. The humans seemed far too confident for a species facing a vastly superior force. What were they hiding? On board the Horizon, Captain Chen turned to her crew, her smile growing. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems we've got our foot in the door. Prepare the landing party, and make sure our special package is ready for transport." As her crew hurried to comply, Chen's gaze drifted to a nondescript crate in the corner of the bridge. Inside lay humanity's secret weapon, the key to their audacious plan. The Zephyrians, for all their advanced technology and imposing stature, had no idea what was coming. The stage was set. Two vastly different species were about to come face to face, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the human landing craft prepared to descend to Zephyria's surface, both sides held their breath, each believing they had the upper hand. Little did they know that the true battle, a battle of minds, of adaptability, and of sheer human ingenuity, was just beginning. First contact. The Zephyrian sky, a swirling canvas of deep purples and electric blues, crackled with energy as the human shuttle pierced the atmosphere. On the ground, a contingent of Zephyrian guards stood at attention, their crystalline forms glittering in the light of the twin suns. General Zix stood at the forefront, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the descending craft. As the shuttle touched down, a hush fell over the assembled Zephyrians. The landing pad, a massive platform of polished crystal, seemed to dwarf the human vessel. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, with a hiss of depressurization, the shuttle's door began to open. Captain Amelia Chen was the first to emerge. Standing barely half the height of the shortest Zephyrian, she nonetheless carried herself with an air of confidence that gave even Zix pause. Behind her came a small team of humans, each carrying what appeared to be simple cases and equipment. "General Zix," Chen called out, her voice clear and strong despite the alien atmosphere. "On behalf of humanity, we thank you for this opportunity." Zix inclined his head slightly, the motion sending prismatic reflections dancing across the landing pad. "Welcome to Zephyria, Captain Chen. I trust you understand that you are here under strict observation. Any hostile action will be met with immediate force." Chen smiled, a gesture that confused the watching Zephyrians. "Of course, General. We come in peace, as I said before. In fact, we've brought a gift to demonstrate our goodwill." At a nod from Chen, one of her team stepped forward, carrying a small, unassuming box. The Zephyrian guards tensed, their crystalline forms vibrating with potential energy. "Easy," Zix commanded, though he couldn't quite keep the edge out of his voice. "What is this gift?" Chen's smile widened. "Something we think you'll find quite interesting. May I?" At Zix's wary nod, Chen took the box and opened it. Inside was a device, small by Zephyrian standards, but sleek and clearly advanced. "This," Chen explained, "is a miniaturized quantum computer. It's capable of calculations that would take your current systems years to complete." Zix's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our computational systems are the most advanced in this sector of the galaxy." "We're the most advanced," Chen corrected gently. "If you'll allow me to demonstrate." What followed was a display that left the assembled Zephyrians in stunned silence. The tiny human device, when connected to a Zephyrian terminal, performed a series of calculations with a speed and accuracy that seemed to defy the laws of physics as the Zephyrians understood them. As the demonstration concluded, Zix found himself at a loss for words. The humans, these tiny, fragile-looking creatures, had just appended everything he thought he knew about technological superiority. "How?" he finally managed to ask. "How is this possible?" Chen's expression turned serious. "Necessity, General Zix. On Earth, we faced challenges that forced us to think differently, to innovate in ways that larger, more resource-rich species might never have considered. We learned to do more with less, to maximize efficiency in ways that might seem unconventional to others. As the implications of Chen's words sank in, a murmur ran through the Zephyrian ranks. These humans, it seemed, were far more than they appeared. This is but one example of what humanity has to offer, Chen continued. We believe that by working together, sharing our knowledge and perspectives, both our species could benefit enormously. Zix studied the human captain, his initial amusement and dismissiveness long gone. In its place was a growing respect, tinged with a hint of wariness. You've certainly given us much to consider, Captain Chen. The High Council will want to discuss this development. Chen nodded. Of course, we're prepared to wait as long as necessary. In the meantime, perhaps you'd be interested in seeing some of our other innovations. Over the next few hours, the humans continued to astound their Zephyrian hosts. They showcased adaptive nanotechnology that could repair damage to Zephyrian crystal structures, energy systems that drew power from dimensional rifts, and communication devices that utilized quantum entanglement for instantaneous, untraceable transmissions across vast distances. With each revelation, the mood among the Zephyrians shifted. What had started as amused condescension was rapidly evolving into a mix of awe, excitement, and for some, a growing unease. As the demonstrations concluded, Zix pulled Chen aside. I must admit, Captain, you've surprised us. Your species, you're not what we expected. Chen's expression was a mix of pride and empathy. We often aren't, General. Humanity has a long history of being underestimated. It served us well in many ways. Zix considered her words carefully. I see. And tell me, Captain, what exactly do you hope to gain from this exchange? Chen's gaze met Zix's directly. Partnership, General. A chance to learn from each other, to grow together. The galaxy is vast and often hostile. We believe that by combining our strengths, both our species could achieve greatness beyond our individual capabilities. As Chen spoke, Zix couldn't help but notice the rest of the human team. They moved with a quiet efficiency, each seemingly aware of their role without need for verbal communication. It was a level of coordination he had rarely seen, even among his own people. You speak of partnership, Zix said slowly, but surely you understand the imbalance in our positions. Your fleet, impressive as your technology may be, is tiny compared to our forces. Chen's smile returned, enigmatic and slightly mischievous. Size isn't everything, General. As I'm sure you're beginning to realize. Before Zix could respond, an urgent message came through his personal communicator. The High Council was requesting his immediate presence. It seemed the news of the humans' technological prowess had spread quickly. It appears I'm needed elsewhere, Captain, Zix said, his tone a mix of reluctance and anticipation. You and your team will be escorted to guest quarters. I look forward to continuing our discussions. As Zix departed, flanked by his guards, Chen watched him go, her expression thoughtful. Once he was out of earshot, she turned to her team. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. Things are about to get interesting. Back in the Zephyrian capital, news of the humans' capabilities was spreading like wildfire. In homes, workplaces, and gathering spots across the planet, Zephyrians debated the implications of these unexpected developments. Some saw opportunity, a chance for their civilization to leap forward. Others saw threat, fearing that these small but clearly capable beings might upset the balance of power. In the High Council chamber, the debate was even more intense. Councillor Zyra's earlier caution now seemed prescient, while those who had dismissed the humans outright struggled to come to terms with this new reality. We must seize this opportunity, Councillor Vix argued passionately. Think of what we could achieve with access to their technology. And at what cost? Councillor Crix countered. Can we trust these humans? What if this is all a ploy, a way to infiltrate and weaken us from within? As the argument raged on, one thing became clear. The arrival of the humans had irrevocably changed the course of Zephyrian history. Whether that change would lead to a bright new future or unforeseen conflict remained to be seen. Outside the council chamber, in a quiet corner of the capital's central plaza, a young Zephyrian named Lix stood before a public view screen, watching replays of the humans' demonstrations. His crystalline form shimmered with excitement and a touch of awe. "Incredible," he murmured to himself. "They're so small, and yet they might just be the biggest thing to ever happen to our world." As night fell on Zephyria, casting the crystalline cities in a soft, ethereal glow, both humans and Zephyrians prepared for what promised to be a pivotal moment in galactic history. The stage was set for a clash, not of military might, but of ideas, innovation, and the very foundations of how each species viewed their place in the universe. Little did either side know that this was just the beginning. The true test of their potential partnership and the depth of human ingenuity was yet to come. The battle begins as the twin suns of Zephyria rose, casting prismatic reflections across the crystalline landscape. An air of tension hung over the capital city. The initial excitement over the humans' technological marvels had given way to a complex mix of emotions among the Zephyrian population. Curiosity warred with suspicion, hope with fear. In the High Council chamber, the debate had raged through the night. The council members, their normally pristine forms showing signs of strain, had reached an impasse. Half saw the humans as an unprecedented opportunity, while the other half viewed them as a potential threat to Zephyrian supremacy. General Zix stood before the council, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the flickering holograms of human technology that floated in the center of the chamber. "Honored council members," he began, his voice resonating through the crystalline room, "we cannot ignore the potential benefits of an alliance with the humans. Their technological advancements could propel our civilization forward by centuries." Councillor Crix, his form jagged with agitation, cut in. "And what if it's all a ruse? A ploy to lull us into a false sense of security before they strike? We know nothing about their true intentions or capabilities." The chamber erupted into argument once more, the crystalline walls amplifying the cacophony of voices. Amidst the chaos, a young Abe burst into the room, her form pulsing with urgency. "Forgive the interruption," she gasped, "but we've detected unusual activity from the human ships." Silence fell over the chamber. General Zix turned to the aide, his voice sharp. "Explain." "Sir, our long-range sensors have picked up energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. The human ships appear to be changing." Without a word, Zix strode to the central hologram display, inputting commands with practiced efficiency. The image shifted, showing a real-time view of the human fleet. What they saw left them stunned. The once small, unassuming human vessels were transforming before their eyes. Panels shifted, revealing hidden compartments. New structures emerged, unfolding like intricate puzzles. What had appeared to be a ragtag collection of small ships was rapidly becoming a formidable armada. By the crystal core, Councillor Zura breathed, her form shimmering with a mix of awe and alarm. "What are we witnessing?" General Zix's eyes narrowed. "It appears, honored council, that our guests have been hiding their true capabilities. The question now is, why reveal them at this moment?" As if in answer to his question, a communication request flashed on the main screen. It was Captain Chen. With a nod from the council, Zix accepted the call. Chen's face appeared, her expression a mix of determination and regret. "General Zix," she began, her voice steady, "I hope you'll forgive our deception. We felt it necessary to level the playing field before we could truly begin negotiations." Zix's form bristled, sending prismatic shards of light dancing across the chamber. "Negotiations? This looks more like a prelude to invasion, Captain." Chen shook her head. "Not at all, General. This is a demonstration of good faith. We're revealing our true capabilities to you, showing that we trust you with this knowledge. We hope this openness will foster a genuine partnership between our peoples." The council chamber erupted into a flurry of whispered conversations. Zix held up a hand for silence. "And if we view this as an act of aggression?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. Chen's expression hardened slightly. Then you would be mistaken, General. We came here in peace, and that remains our intention. But we are not naive. We understand that sometimes respect is earned through strength. We're simply ensuring that our voice will be heard. As Chen spoke, alarms began blaring throughout the Zephyrian capital. On screens across the city, citizens watched in a mix of fear and fascination as the human fleet continued its transformation. In the council chamber, Councillor Crix's agitation reached a fever pitch. "Enough of this charade," he shouted. "They've revealed their true colors. We must strike now, before they can fully deploy their weapons." A ripple of agreement passed through several council members. General Zix turned back to the screen, his expression grim. "Captain Chen," he said, his voice laden with the weight of impending conflict, "I'm afraid your actions have forced our hand. We cannot allow a potential threat of this magnitude to go unchallenged." Chen's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of genuine regret passing across her face. "General, please, this isn't necessary. We can still—" But her words were cut short as Zix terminated the communication. He turned to the council, his form radiating determination. "Honored Council," he announced, "with your permission, I will mobilize our forces. We must protect Zephyria at all costs." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Within moments, alerts were sounding across the planet. The great Zephyrian war machines, massive constructs of living crystal and advanced technology, began to awaken from their long slumber. In the skies above Zephyria, the human fleet had completed its transformation. What had once been a small group of seemingly insignificant ships was now a formidable array of sleek, advanced vessels, their hulls shimmering with barely contained energy. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Chen stood surrounded by her crew, her expression a mix of resolve and sadness. "It seems diplomacy has failed," she said softly. "Prepare for defensive maneuvers. Remember, our goal is not to destroy, but to demonstrate. We need to show them that we're a force to be reckoned with, without causing unnecessary harm." As her crew rushed to comply, Chen's gaze was drawn to a small, inconspicuous device on her wrist. She tapped it twice, sending a prearranged signal. Across the human fleet, similar devices activated, initializing protocols that had been months, if not years, in the making. The battle for Zephyria was about to begin, but it would be unlike any conflict the crystal world had ever seen. For the humans had come prepared not just with advanced technology, but with strategies and tactics born from millennia of conflict and resolution on their home world. As the first Zephyrian warships rose from the planet's surface, their crystalline forms catching the light of the twin suns, Captain Chen's voice rang out across the human fleet. "Remember your training," she said, her voice steady and confident. "Remember why we're here. And most importantly, remember that our greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt, to think creatively in the face of overwhelming odds. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." With those words, the human fleet sprang into action. But instead of launching a direct assault, they began a series of complex maneuvers, forming patterns in the space above Zephyria that seemed to defy conventional military strategy. The Zephyrian forces, caught off guard by these unconventional tactics, hesitated. In that moment of confusion, the true nature of the human strategy began to unfold. Beams of energy shot forth from the human ships, but instead of striking the Zephyrian vessels, they intersected in space, creating a dazzling display of light and energy. The Zephyrian sensors, calibrated for traditional weapons, were overwhelmed by the sudden influx of data. As the crystalline warships struggled to make sense of the situation, smaller human craft darted between them, attaching devices to their hulls. These devices, no larger than a human hand, began to pulse with a soft, rhythmic light. On the bridge of his flagship, General Zix watched in growing frustration as his forces failed to land a single significant blow against the human fleet. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his crystalline form vibrating with tension. Why can't we lock onto their ships? His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Lix, looked up from his console, his expression a mix of confusion and awe. "Sir," he reported, "the humans, they're not fighting us. At least, not in any way we understand. Their energy weapons seem designed to confuse rather than destroy. And those devices they're attaching to our ships, they're not explosive. They're communicating with our systems somehow." As if to punctuate Lix's words, the lights on the bridge flickered. Across the Zephyrian fleet, systems began to behave erratically. Weapons refused to fire, shields fluctuated wildly, and communication channels filled with bursts of unintelligible data. In the council chamber, the assembled leaders watched in disbelief as their mighty armada was effectively neutralized without a single ship being destroyed. Counselor Zyra, her form shimmering with a mix of fear and grudging admiration, turned to her peers. "It seems," she said softly, "that we may have gravely underestimated these humans." As the battle raged on, it became increasingly clear that this was no ordinary conflict. The humans, vastly outnumbered and facing a technologically advanced foe, were rewriting the rules of engagement before the Zephyrians' very eyes. And as the twin suns of Zephyria began to set, casting long shadows across the crystalline world, both sides knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The true test of wills, of adaptability and ingenuity, was only just beginning. Turning the tide, as the Zephyrian night fell, casting the battlefield in an eerie, shimmering darkness, the conflict entered a new phase. The initial shock of the humans' unconventional tactics had worn off, and the Zephyrians were regrouping, their legendary adaptability coming to the fore. In the heart of the Zephyrian capital, General Zix stood before a hastily assembled war council. His crystalline form, usually so pristine, now showed signs of stress, microfractures spreading across his surface like a web. "We underestimated them," Zix admitted, his voice resonating with a mix of frustration and grudging respect. "These humans, their tactics are unlike anything we've encountered before." Counselor Zyra, her form pulsing with a soft, thoughtful light, spoke up. "Perhaps that's the point, General. They're not trying to defeat us in the traditional sense. They're challenging our very conception of conflict." As the council debated, Lix, now promoted to senior tactical officer, worked feverishly at his console. His eyes widened suddenly, a flash of insight coursing through his crystalline form. "General," he called out, his voice cutting through the debate, "I think I've found something. The human devices, they're not just disrupting our systems. They're teaching them." A hush fell over the room as Lix projected his findings. The small devices attached to the Zephyrian ships were indeed communicating with their systems, but not to destroy or disable. Instead, they were introducing new protocols, optimizing processes, even repairing micro-damages in the crystalline structures. "It's not an attack," Lix said, his voice filled with awe. "It's an upgrade." In orbit above Zephyria, Captain Chen watched the unfolding events with a mix of tension and hope. The initial phase of their plan had worked better than expected, but she knew the Zephyrians wouldn't remain off balance for long. "Status report," she commanded, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. Her second-in-command, a wiry man named Taurus, responded promptly. "The nanotech integration is proceeding as planned, Captain. 70% of the Zephyrian fleet has been inoculated." Chen nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "And the adaptive interface, online and learning at an exponential rate," Taurus confirmed. "It's already deciphering Zephyrian command structures and adapting our systems accordingly." As they spoke, a new wave of Zephyrian ships rose from the planet's surface. These vessels moved differently, their movements more fluid, more unpredictable. It seemed the Zephyrians were quick studies. "They're adapting," Chen mused, a note of admiration in her voice. "Just as we hoped they would." Initiate Phase 2. Across the human fleet, a new set of protocols activated. The ships began to move in complex, seemingly random patterns. To the Zephyrians, it appeared as if the human fleet was splitting apart, becoming a swarm of smaller, faster vessels. On the planet's surface, General Zix watched the tactical display with growing confusion. "What are they doing now?" he demanded. Lix, his eyes darting across streams of data, shook his head in disbelief. "Sir, they're evolving. Their ships are reconfiguring in real time, adapting to our counterattacks before we even launch them." Zix's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "How is this possible?" "I'm not sure," Lix admitted. "But sir, I think they're inviting us to evolve with them." As if to confirm Lix's words, a new transmission cut across all Zephyrian communication channels. Captain Chen's face appeared on screens throughout the Zephyrian fleet and command centers. "People of Zephyria," she began, her voice calm but filled with conviction. "We did not come here to conquer or destroy. We came to elevate, to share, to grow. The devices we've attached to your ships are not weapons, but gateways. Gateways to a new understanding. A new way of thinking about technology, about conflict, about cooperation." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We've shown you a fraction of what we can do. Imagine what we could accomplish together. This isn't a battle to be won or lost. It's an opportunity for both our species to transcend our limitations." As Chen spoke, something remarkable began to happen. The human ships, still reconfiguring and adapting, began to synchronize with the Zephyrian vessels. Where there had been chaos, a strange harmony emerged. Human and Zephyrian technologies, so different yet complementary, began to interface on a level never before seen. In the Zephyrian war room, General Zix watched in stunned silence as his fleet, without any direct orders, began to move in concert with the human ships. It wasn't capitulation. It was cooperation on a scale he had never imagined possible. "Sir," Lix reported, his voice filled with excitement, "the upgrades from the human devices, they're not just improving our systems. They're allowing us to communicate, to coordinate with the human fleet in real time. It's beautiful." Zix, for the first time in his long military career, found himself at a loss for words. The battle he had prepared for, the conflict he had expected, had transformed into something entirely different. It was no longer about victory or defeat, but about the birth of something new, something unprecedented. As the Zephyrian night gave way to the first light of dawn, the scene above the crystal world was one of breathtaking beauty and complexity. Human and Zephyrian ships danced in intricate patterns, their technologies merging and evolving with each passing moment. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Chen allowed herself a moment of relief. "It's working," she murmured, more to herself than to her crew. "They're beginning to understand." But even as she spoke, warning klaxons blared across the human fleet. Torres, his face pale, turned to Chen with alarm. "Captain," he said urgently, "we're detecting a massive energy buildup on the planet's surface. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Chen's relief evaporated, replaced by a grim determination. "It seems not everyone is ready to embrace change," she said, her voice tight. "Prepare for emergency maneuvers. Whatever's coming, we need to be ready." As the twin suns of Zephyria rose, casting their light across the crystalline world, both humans and Zephyrians braced themselves. The battle might have evolved, but it was far from over. The true test of their newfound cooperation was about to begin, and the fate of both species hung in the balance. The next few moments would determine whether this encounter would end in unprecedented alliance or unthinkable destruction. As Captain Chen stared at the swirling energy readings emanating from Zephyria's surface, she knew that everything they had worked for, everything they had sacrificed, would be put to the ultimate test. The final act was about to unfold, and the galaxy held its breath. Victory and understanding. The twin suns of Zephyria climbed higher in the sky, their light refracting through the planet's crystalline structures and creating a dazzling display of colors. But the beauty of the moment was overshadowed by the palpable tension that gripped both the human fleet and the Zephyrian forces. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Chen's eyes were fixed on the swirling vortex of energy building on Zephyria's surface. Her mind raced, analyzing possible scenarios and outcomes. "Torres," she called out, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "What are we looking at?" Her second-in-command shook his head, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's like nothing we've ever encountered, Captain. The energy readings are off the charts. If I had to guess, I'd say it's some kind of last-resort weapon." Chen nodded grimly. "A doomsday device. They're not ready to let go of their perceived superiority." She tapped her comm link. "All ships, prepare for emergency evasive maneuvers. We need tow." But before she could finish, a new voice cut across the communication channels. It was Lix, the young Zephyrian tactical officer. "Captain Chen," he said, his voice urgent but clear. "Please, don't retreat. We need your help." Chen hesitated for a moment, then nodded to Torres to put the transmission on the main screen. Lix's crystalline face appeared, his form flickering with stress and urgency. "The device you're detecting," Lix continued, "it's not a weapon. At least, it wasn't meant to be. It's our planet's core, the source of all Zephyrian technology and life. But something's wrong. The energy is becoming unstable, threatening to tear our world apart." Chen's eyes widened as the implications sank in. "Your leaders," she said softly, "they're willing to risk destroying their own planet rather than accept change." Lix's form shimmered with what Chen recognized as the Zephyrian equivalent of a sad nod. "Not all of them, but enough to activate the core's fail-safe protocols. They thought they could control it, use it to drive you away. But it's spiraling out of control." For a moment, the bridge of the horizon was silent. Then Chen straightened, her eyes blazing with determination. "Lix," she said, her voice filled with resolve, "we're going to need everything you know about that core. And we're going to need the cooperation of every Zephyrian who's willing to help." As Lix began transmitting data, Chen turned to her crew. "This is what we came here for," she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to help. To show that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability, but our capacity for compassion, even in the face of hostility." She tapped her comm link again. "All ships, new mission parameters. We're going to save Zephyria." What followed was a flurry of activity unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships, working in perfect synchronization with their Zephyrian counterparts, began to position themselves around the planet. The nanotech devices that had initially been seen as weapons now became conduits, allowing for unprecedented levels of communication and coordination between the two species. On the planet's surface, General Zix found himself in an unexpected alliance with the human ground teams that had been dispatched to help. His crystalline form, once rigid with suspicion, now flowed with a new kind of energy as he worked side by side with the humans. "I never thought I'd say this," he admitted to the human engineer beside him, "but I'm glad you're here." The engineer, a woman named Dr. Patel, grinned as she calibrated a device designed to stabilize the planet's core. "That's the thing about us humans, General. We're full of surprises." As they worked, the energy buildup continued to grow. The sky above Zephyria turned a violent shade of purple, crackling with uncontrolled power. The planet itself seemed to groan, crystal spires vibrating with increasing intensity. In orbit, Captain Chen coordinated the efforts of both fleets. Human ingenuity combined with Zephyrian knowledge in ways neither side had thought possible. Ships formed energy networks, creating a web around the planet designed to contain and redirect the core's power. "It's not enough," Torres reported, his voice strained. "We need more power to stabilize the core." Chen's mind raced, then her eyes lit up with an idea. "The horizon," she said softly. Then, louder, "Prepare the horizon for emergency core breach. We're going to use our ship's power source to jumpstart the stabilization process." Her crew looked at her in shock, but quickly moved to comply. They all knew what this meant. The horizon, their home for this long journey, would be sacrificed. As the massive human flagship moved into position, directly above the swirling vortex of Zephyria's core, Chen opened a channel to all ships, human and Zephyrian alike. "This is Captain Amelia Chen," she said, her voice carrying across space. "What we do here today will be remembered for generations to come. Not as a victory of one species over another, but as a moment when two vastly different civilizations came together in the face of annihilation and chose cooperation over conflict." She paused, her gaze sweeping over her crew, then out to the stars beyond. "It has been my honor to lead this mission, to be a part of this moment. Whatever happens next, remember this. The universe is vast and often dangerous. But as long as we can find common ground, as long as we can choose understanding over fear, there is no challenge we cannot overcome." With those words, Chen gave the order. The Horizon's power core, a marvel of human engineering, began to overload. Energy poured from the ship, channeled through the network created by the combined fleets, straight into the heart of Zephyria. For a moment, it seemed as if the universe itself held its breath. Then, slowly, miraculously, the violent energies began to stabilize. The purple sky faded back to its normal hues, the crystal spires stopped their ominous vibrations, and a sense of calm settled over the planet. As the dust settled and the danger passed, humans and Zephyrians alike found themselves standing side by side, marveling at what they had accomplished together. The Horizon was gone, sacrificed in the name of salvation, but its loss had bought something far more valuable: a new understanding between two species that had started as potential enemies and ended as allies. In the weeks that followed, the true impact of the event became clear. The Zephyrian High Council, humbled by the human sacrifice and impressed by their capabilities, extended an official invitation for Earth to join in a galactic alliance. The technology shared between the two species led to advancements that neither could have achieved alone. Captain Chen, hailed as a hero by both humans and Zephyrians, stood on a balcony overlooking the Zephyrian capital. Beside her stood General Zix and young Lix, their crystalline forms glittering in the light of the twin suns. "So," Zix said, his voice tinged with a newfound warmth, "what's next for humanity?" Chen smiled, her gaze fixed on the horizon, where human and Zephyrian ships now patrol together. "The same thing that's next for all of us, General. We explore, we learn, we grow, together." As the three looked out over the crystalline world, now forever changed by the encounter between their species, they knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and challenges yet to be discovered. But now, they would face whatever came next, not as separate species, but as allies, friends, and partners in the greatest adventure of all: understanding the universe and each other. The story of the humans and the Zephyrians would be told for generations to come, a testament to the power of cooperation, the strength found in diversity, and the unbreakable spirit of those who choose hope over fear, unity over division. It was a new dawn for both species, and the start of a legend that would echo across the stars.